In the grand chessboard of international politics, nations often find themselves as mere pieces, maneuvered by the strategic plays of global powerhouses. The ongoing crisis in Ukraine, a result of Russia's assertive stance, serves as a chilling testament to the catastrophic fallout when superpowers draw and enforce their boundaries.
Необходимо также синхронизировать процесс достижения перемирия с проведением на Украине политических реформ, предусмотренных Минскими соглашениями.
Now, a parallel narrative is being scripted in the far-off region of Southeast Asia. Here, the Philippines finds itself on the brink, ensnared between an increasingly assertive China
谁妄想这样干，必将在14多亿中国人民用血肉铸成的钢铁长城面前碰得头破血流。
and a cautious United States. The future of the Philippines, caught in this geopolitical tug-of-war, eerily echoes the predicament faced by Ukraine. In this video, we'll dissect the parallels and contrasts between these two geopolitical tinderboxes, delving into how historical context and present-day alliances mold the potential dangers and realities for the Philippines. The geopolitical landscape of Ukraine has been significantly molded by Russia's actions, especially in the aftermath of NATO's Bucharest Declaration in 2008. This declaration signaled a potential future inclusion of Ukraine and Georgia in NATO, a prospect that Russia perceived as a direct encroachment on its sphere of influence.
But I stand to be corrected if the sentence we agreed today that these countries in the text, read Ukraine and Georgia, will become members of NATO, leaves a shimmer of a doubt. Not in my opinion.
This led to a series of events, including the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the ongoing strife in eastern Ukraine. These actions underscore Russia's determination to enforce its red lines and prevent NATO's eastward expansion.
I want to congratulate you, all the people of Crimea and Sevastopol, the citizens of the country, on this, without any exaggeration, momentous event.
In a parallel narrative, the Philippines is treading a dangerous path in international politics as China intensifies its territorial assertions in the South China Sea. The aggressive tactics of China are manifested in its militarization of man-made islands, a bold declaration of its non-negotiable boundaries in the region. These islands, which include Subi Reef, Gavin Reef, Hughes Reef, Johnson South Reef, Fiery Cross Reef, Corderon Reef, and Mischief Reef, have been fortified with anti-ship and anti-aircraft missile systems, laser and jamming equipment, and fighter jets. This strategic move has heightened tensions and poses a threat to the peace and stability of all nations operating in the vicinity. In response to China's attempts to assert control over what the Philippines rightfully considers its territorial waters, the situation mirrors Ukraine's stance on Crimea. Just as Ukraine asserts its sovereignty over Crimea, the Philippines is standing firm on its territorial rights in the South China Sea. This parallel underscores the shared challenges faced by nations on the geopolitical stage when confronting larger powers over territorial disputes. The Mutual Defense Treaty between the Philippines and the United States provides a layer of security that Ukraine does not possess. However, this alliance is fraught with complexities. While it acts as a shield against China's overt aggression, it also entangles the Philippines in the broader strategic contest between the US and China. The intensifying confrontational rhetoric on both sides, along with a rising sentiment in the US against foreign engagements, injects a degree of uncertainty into the treaty's effectiveness and reliability. Recent events have witnessed the U.S. reinforcing its commitments under this treaty. On May 3, 2023, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd J. Austin III and Philippine Secretary of the Department of National Defense Carlito Galvez instituted the Bilateral Defense Guidelines. These guidelines reiterate that an armed assault in the Pacific, encompassing the South China Sea, on any of their public vessels, aircraft, or armed forces, including their coast guards, would trigger mutual defense obligations.
We discussed concrete actions to address destabilizing activities in the waters surrounding the Philippines, including the West Philippine Sea. And we remain committed to strengthening our mutual capacities to resist armed attack.
Furthermore, in February 2023, the Philippines and the United States rejuvenated their Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. PDCA. Under this agreement, the United States has gained access to a total of 9 Philippine military bases, with an additional 4 identified in April 2023. This rejuvenation signifies a renewed dedication by the Philippines and the United States to each other's interests and to bolstering deterrence in Southeast Asia. These developments underscore the U.S.'s firm commitment to the Philippines. However, if the conflict escalates to a broader regional scale, it could become protracted. And as observed in the Ukraine scenario, ironclad commitments may begin to falter if the conflict persists over years.
I want to be clear. I want to be very clear. The United States defense commitment to the Philippines is ironclad. The United States defense agreement to the Philippines is ironclad. Any attack on the Filipino aircraft vessels or armed forces will invoke our mutual defense treaty with the Philippines.
China's geographical proximity to the Philippines gives it a strategic advantage, much like Russia's proximity to Ukraine. In any potential conflict, China can leverage its home advantage with shorter supply lines and greater regional influence. This dynamic complicates the Philippines' defense strategy, as the U.S. would have to project power across the Pacific, a significant logistical challenge. Apart from the home ground advantage, China also possesses a military edge over its combined neighbors in the Pacific region. This combination of geographical advantage and military superiority puts China in a strong strategic position. It underscores the complex and precarious situation that the Philippines finds itself in, caught between the assertive stance of China and the strategic interests of the United States. Much like Ukraine, the Philippines is navigating a turbulent geopolitical landscape where the stakes are high and the future uncertain. Ukraine's current predicament illustrates the perils of being caught between superpowers. While NATO and the West provide support, Ukraine bears the brunt of the conflict, suffering immense economic and human costs. The war in Ukraine has inflicted an estimated $100 billion in infrastructure damage, and the International Monetary Fund forecasts that Ukraine's economy will shrink by about 35% this year. Moreover, the conflict has resulted in over 30,000 civilian casualties, while 3.7 million people have been displaced internally and 6.5 million have fled Ukraine. A similar scenario could potentially play out in the Philippines, a country caught in the strategic rivalry between the United States and China. While a direct confrontation between these superpowers will be avoided, their prolonged struggle could wreak havoc on the Philippines. The country is at risk of becoming a stage for proxy conflicts, which could lead to significant economic and infrastructural damage. The United States has been emboldening the Philippines for its Pacific ambitions, supporting its recent confrontations with China. Notably, in 2024, U.S. and Philippine forces conducted their first ever military exercises outside the territorial waters of the Southeast Asian nation. These exercises, known as the Balakatan or shoulder-to-shoulder drills, involved 16,700 soldiers simulating the recapture of enemy-occupied islands in areas near Taiwan and the South China Sea. This marked a significant escalation in the U.S.'s commitment to the Philippines amidst rising Chinese assertiveness. In parallel, despite the joint defense exercises carried out by Western nations in conjunction with Ukraine's military, Russia's remains undeterred. From February 2022 onwards, Russia has been relentless in its offensive against Ukraine, causing substantial losses. The conflict has now entered its 117th week, with the intensity of the fighting escalating in the northern and northeastern regions of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city. This relentless assault underscores the grim reality of war. Looking at the Philippines now, it concluded 2023 as the fastest-growing economy across Southeast Asia, with a growth rate of 5.6%. However, the ongoing superpower rivalry and the potential for conflict could pose significant challenges to this growth trajectory. The future holds both promise and peril for the Philippines as it navigates these complex geopolitical currents. The influence of public opinion on foreign policy is a significant aspect in both the United States and the Philippines. Recent data from the United States reveals a mounting sentiment against war, with approximately 70% of the population advocating for a peaceful resolution to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The 2023 Chicago Council survey further underscores this trend, highlighting how American involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war has shaped public attitudes towards foreign policy. This growing reluctance to engage in foreign conflicts could potentially impact the degree of support the U.S. might extend to the Philippines in times of conflict. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, public sentiment towards China is split. A Pulse Asia poll from July 2022 shows that 36% of Filipinos express caution towards China, while 33% indicate trust. This divide stems from those advocating for a more assertive stance against China due to territorial disputes in the South China Sea, and those who favor preserving economic relations with China, a dominant regional economic force. Philippine leadership is tasked with the critical challenge of navigating these domestic and international pressures. Striking a balance between national security needs and the advantages of economic collaboration necessitates a sophisticated approach, one that prioritizes the enduring interests of the Filipino people.
My little part that I played in the opening of relations between China and the Philippines, it has now become my responsibility, but certainly my privilege, to be able to continue on that legacy, to continue to promote the friendship between China and the Philippines.
The comparison between the Philippines and Ukraine highlights the complex interplay of geopolitical red lines, mutual defense treaties, and superpower rivalry. While the Philippines has certain strategic advantages, such as its alliance with the US, it also faces significant risks due to its proximity to China and the volatile nature of international relations in the region.
Good morning.
The Philippines must carefully navigate its position in the crosshairs of superpowers, learning from Ukraine's experiences while charting a path that safeguards its sovereignty and national interests. The situation underscores the need for a nuanced and flexible foreign policy that balances deterrence, diplomacy, and strategic partnerships.